Hey guys, in this video we'll learn how to use Unity Terrain system to create a fantasy environment in Unity's universal render pipeline. So let's get started. Alright, I have opened up Unity and already implemented the universal render pipeline. If you are new to URP, then please watch my video about URP introduction. For this tutorial, I'm going to use a slightly different approach than my previous video. Basically in this video, I'm going to use terrain tools to create a new terrain and also give you a basic overview of it. So let's go ahead and import the terrain tools. To do that, go to Windows and Package Manager, and in the Packages section, make sure the Unity registry is selected. This will list all the packages available for Unity. Next, I go to Search option and search for terrain tools. And as you can see, the terrain tools are not visible in the search result. And that is because at this moment, terrain tool is a preview package, and in Unity 2020, by default, preview packages are disabled. So to enable preview packages for Package Manager, I go to Edit, Project Setting, and in the Package Manager section, tick this Enable Preview Packages option. And as you can see, now these terrain tools are visible in our search result. And you can also see this is a preview package. Then I click on Install to install the tools. Then I also go ahead and download the sample asset from ASUS store. This package includes some additional brushes for sculpting and some high quality texture for terrain. Then I click on Add to my asset and click on Open in Unity. This will bring me back to my package manager. And since I have already downloaded this package, so now I just need to import it. And now to access the Terrain Toolbox, go to Windows, Terrain and Terrain Toolbox. We're gonna use this Terrain Toolbox to create and manage our terrain. And also we have additional textures and brushes to quickly get started with terrain. Next, I'm also gonna import this fantasy landscape pack for trees, grass and ground textures. So let's quickly import that also. So as you can see right now everything is pink, and that is because these materials are not supported in Universal Render Pipeline. So let me quickly convert all the materials to URP. If you want to know how to convert materials in URP, please watch my video about URP introduction. Alright, now I have converted everything to URP. So I create a new scene and I save it, called URP terrain. Okay, so let's create our terrain. In my previous tutorial, I showed you that you can create a new tutorial by right click, go to 3D object and create a terrain. But this time I'm going to use Terrain Toolbox. So I go to Windows, Terrain and open up this Terrain Toolbox. And here you can define various parameters for your terrain. So right now I keep the width and length to 500 meters and height to 100 meters. And without changing any parameter, just simply click on Create. And you can see it has automatically created our terrain. And it also created a group object, and this is our terrain which we have just created. This Terrain Toolbox has some additional features, some of which we will use throughout this video. Let's start sculpting our terrain. To do that, select your terrain and go to Paint Terrain section. And here you can use this raise or lower option to sculpt your terrain. I also want to show you a few shortcut keys. If you hold A and move your mouse, you can basically change the strength. If you press S and move your mouse, you can change the size of the brush. And if you hold D and move your mouse, this will rotate your brush. And now you can just simply mouse clicks sculpt your terrain very easily. Just like that. But this time I'm going to show you a slightly different and quicker approach to sculpt your terrain. So for that, I go to Sculpt and use this noise brush. If I go down here, this is the texture that this brush is going to use to sculpt this terrain. So now if I click, and you can see it quickly adds some variation to my terrain. To modify the texture of this brush, simply scroll your mouse in this preview section, and now you can change the texture of your brush. And here are some other parameters you can also use to modify this texture. So in the noise type, I'm going to choose ridge. Okay, and slightly increase the size. Feel free to play with these options to get different kinds of results. And start sculpting. even though it's looking more like a sand dunes, but since we are creating a fantasy environment, so this may will work. Next, I create a 3D cube and set the Y value to 2 and place this in the center of this terrain. Then select the camera and press Ctrl+Shift+F to align the camera in the scene view. I'm gonna use this cube as a reference to a human object to maintain a proportion between grass, texture and trees. And that's why I set the Y value to 2, that is approximately equal to a human height. Let's also quickly apply a texture to the ground so that we can better see our terrain. To do that, select the terrain, go to the paint terrain section, and here go to paint terrain section. Then go down, and in the layer option, here you can add and remove texture layer of this terrain. So I'm going to create the first layer of grass. So I call this my grass and I click on create. And this will ask you to choose a texture. So I'm going to choose this ground grass texture that comes with this fantasy landscape pack. And now you can see the texture is applied to this whole terrain. Now you select your texture. And here you can also assign normal map. I have already prepared a normal map for this material. By the way, this normal map is not included in this package. You can create this normal map in Materialize software. I have also created a tutorial about that. And now if you select your terrain, go to Windows, Terrain and Terrain Toolbox. And in the Terrain Utility section, in the terrain layer, click on Import from Terrain and it will list all the textures that are applied to this terrain. Now you can manage your texture from here. So let's go ahead and also sculpt the center part of this terrain because right now it's quite flat. Again, I'm going to use noise brush to sculpt the center part of this terrain. So I go to the sculpt and go to the noise brush again. This time I choose a different brush. Okay, reduce the scale. And also going to choose a different type of noise, something like this. And see how this looks. I don't want to create too much detail into the center area. By the way, you can hold shift to smooth the area. You can also sculpt your terrain later once you apply your textures and trees. So I think for now this is enough. We can later sculpt this terrain if we need it. Let's also slightly adjust the lighting of the scene because right now it's looking too dark. And if you also have this kind of issue, and that is because right now there is no ambient light in the scene. So to create ambient light in our scene, you go to lighting section. And if you're using Unity 2020, you need to create new light setting. So I click on new light setting. Then in the mixed lighting, disable this bake GI because we don't need it. And then simply click on generate lighting. I'm also gonna slightly adjust the intensity of my direction light. Maybe 1.5. Okay. Next, I'm going to create a path on this terrain. To do that, select your terrain and again go to paint texture section. And also gonna add one more layer of ground. This time I call it my ground and click create. And this time I'm going to choose this ground road texture. I have also prepared a normal map for this texture. So I simply apply it and set the normal map to maybe like 4 something. Now to paint a path on this terrain, select the brush and select the ground layer and start painting. As you can see, right now the texture is looking a bit pixelated, and that is because there is not enough resolution for our texture. To fix that, again go to Windows and Terrain Toolbox, and in the terrain setting, go to texture resolution and change the control texture resolution. So right now it's set to 512. So if I set this to 32 and select apply to terrain, you can see it is now much lower quality. So I control Z. So for now I choose 1024 and hit apply, and you can see now the texture is looking much better. Let's also increase to 2048 and hit apply to terrain. And now you can see the texture is looking a bit better around the edges. So next I'm going to quickly create a path on this terrain. Alright, I have quickly painted a rough path on this terrain. It's time to add some trees on our terrain. So to do that, select your terrain and go to Paint Tree section. Click on Edit Trees and choose Add Tree. And here you can choose your tree prefab. So the Fantasy Landscape package comes with a few tree prefabs which I'm going to use. So I select this first tree, click on Add, then again click on Add Trees, and this time add the second tree. Now to paint the trees on terrain, simply choose the tree you want, adjust the brush size, and simply click to place the tree on terrain. But it's really very painful to place tree all over the terrain using this method. So to quickly scatter tree on this terrain, you can use this Mask Place Trees option. What you can do is just set the number of trees you want. For example, I choose 500 trees and I don't want to keep existing trees, so I untick this option and simply click on Place. And you can see it has automatically placed trees on this terrain. As you can see that these distance trees are looking a bit weird, and that is because there is no LOD assigned for these tree prefabs. So I think that Unity is automatically trying to create an LOD based on these textures. To fix this issue, you can create a low polygon version of this tree and assign that as an LOD to this prefab. That will fix these problems and provide you even better performance. However, there are some other solutions which you can use, but they are not as optimized as using an LOD. So the first solution is you can use fog to hide these trees. So if I go to lighting and in the environment section, I enable this fog. I also enable the fog in the scene view. And now you can use a fog to kind of hide these distant trees. And you can see now the trees are not that much visible. And when you go close to them, it will automatically convert to the original tree prefab. The second option to fix this issue, which is not a recommended method, but however you can use it, select your terrain and go into the terrain setting and increase this billboard distance like 500. And now you can see that these distance trees are also looking perfectly fine. But I won't recommend this method because this will increase your CPU overhead. So if you are having any optimization issue, try using the LOD method. But for this scene, I keep this value. As you can see that some trees are spawned in our path. So to remove them, hold Shift and click to remove the unnecessary trees. Now you can sculpt your terrain a bit more to create some ups and downs on this terrain. Okay, so now with some slopes, our path is looking a bit better. Let's go ahead and add some grass on our terrain. So to do that, select your terrain and go to this paint details section. And in the edit details section, you can use grass texture or grass mesh. So let's first try adding a grass texture. So I click on add grass texture and simply choose a grass. So I choose this grass, set the color, something like that, and hit up add. And now you can scatter the grass on the ground. Okay, even though it's not grass, it's a flower texture, but you can also use different texture for grass. For example, this one. Then set the color to match the grass texture. Next, I choose add detail mesh. This package comes with a nice grass mesh. So I'm going to choose this one and set the color, hit add, and then click on scatter. As you can see, the grass is looking a bit tilted. So to fix that, again go to terrain settings and in the bending option, set this to 0.1 or 0.2. Okay. Now to adjust the grass parameter, again select the grass, go to edit, and here you can define its color. Choose a color that matches with the ground texture. Minimum and maximum width and height. I choose the lower opacity and increase the brush size because I don't want denser grass. So first I remove the grass by holding shift and clicking mouse. Then you can scatter the grass wherever you want. But don't go crazy with this grass because this may affect your game performance. And as you can see, now the color is looking a bit different. So to fix that issue, again go to your terrain setting, and in the grass tint option, set this to a mid gray, just like that. Now you can also use the same method to scatter different type of flower on this terrain, which are also included in this package. So our terrain is almost ready. Next, I quickly place this rock prefab to add some more interest in our scene. Alright, now our terrain design is ready. So let's add some lighting and post-processing to further improvise our scene. So first of all, I'm gonna add sky to our scene. For the sky, I'm going to use this fantasy skybox pack, which has some really nice sky. So I quickly implement it in Unity. Then go to lighting section, and in the environment tab, in the skybox material, here you can choose different kind of sky for your scene. I also enable the auto generate lighting so that I can see the effect of a skybox lighting in our scene. So now you can choose different kinds of sky. I'm going to choose this one. I slightly adjust the direction light. Alright, next I'm going to add some post-processing in our scene. For that, I right click and go to volume and create a global volume and create a new profile. And first of all, I assign tone mapping and set this to ACES, and it will add some contrast in our scene. Next, I'm going to add some bloom. Also want to increase my direction light. Okay. Next, I'm going to add lift gamma gain to add some toning in our scene. Okay. And you can also use this white balance. Okay. And then I'm gonna add some vignette. And as you can see, after adding post effects, our scene is looking way much better. And you also go to main camera and make sure that post processing is enabled. And in the anti-aliasing, you can choose the fast or subpixel. And as you can see, after applying all the post effects, our scene is looking really nice, and we're also getting decent FPS. So now it's your time to use these skills to create beautiful environments for your games. If you have any issues, you can ask me in the comment section or on my Discord server. If you like this video, give this a like and subscribe to the channel for more tutorials. You can also visit our Patreon page for more exclusive tutorials. And finally, I would like to thank all of my Patreon supporters, especially Hannah Sinkonan, Dimedu, Brendan Manion, JB, Hongin, MJ Lee, Silas Renagal, Phoebe Liu, Heath Close, Stephen Christie, Mamoru Yoshida, Chill Carrier, Stephen Sidro, and Dankin. So that's pretty much it for this video. See you in the next one. Bye bye.